Coach Nick Saban. We'll ask Coach Saban to make an opening statement, and then we will take questions. Coach Saban, opening statement. Thank you.
First of all, I'd like to congratulate Dan Mullen and his Florida team for winning the East. They've got an outstanding team. They've played really well all year long, and we're looking forward to the challenge of playing in the SEC championship game, which we think is one of the best competitive venues our team has ever been a part of. It's also the city of Atlanta, Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Southeastern Conference has made this really something special for the teams who participate, and we certainly appreciate and thank them for that. Florida is a very challenging team, one of the best offensive teams in the country in a lot of different ways in terms of touchdowns, scoring points, pass offense, great quarterback, really good mismatch players on the perimeter. It's going to be a very challenging game for our defense. Defensively, they create a lot of issues and problems with, Todd does multiple things and pressures and negative plays, and they have very good players, and they're very, very good on special teams. So this is really a solid team from top to bottom, and going to be a very challenging game for us. And we're looking forward to having the opportunity to play in a championship game.
Thank you, Coach. At this time, if you have a question, please raise your hand virtually, and you'll be identified. Your line will be unmuted to ask your question. As a reminder, please provide your name and affiliation prior to the question. We'll begin with Paul Newberry. Paul.
Hey, Coach. How you doing? Paul Newberry from Associated Press. I want to ask you a bigger picture. I know you're a guy who stays kind of focused on the here and now, but you're the same age as Bear Bryant was when he retired. Have you given any thought to how long you want to do this, and what kind of keeps you going at age 69 when a lot of guys can call it a career?
Well, I'm excited about the opportunity that we have in front of us, and obviously I love doing what I do, and want to continue to do it for as long as I feel like I can contribute in a positive way to the program. And that's about the only plan I have for the future. We've got a lot of good players here. We try to create a lot of value for our players here so that they have a better opportunity to be successful in the future, and that's very self-gratifying. But if I thought that my presence here was not something that was a positive for the University of Alabama or the program or the players, then I'd say it would be time not to do it anymore.
All right, Coach, we'll go to Gene Fournette. Gene, go ahead.
Hey, Coach. Gene Fournette from the Florida Times-Union in Jacksonville. When you look back to the 2009 SEC championship game, the first of your 5 national championships that year, how much did you anticipate or even could even fathom at that point how much of a landscape-changing game that would be as you fast forward 11 years after that?
Well, I think the 2008 game probably had somewhat of a significant impact on the program here in the fact that, we lost to a very good Florida team, Tim Tebow, and they went on to win the national championship the next year. So I think our players learned a lot from that. The next year, for us to be able to play, a very similar team with Florida, a very similar team for us, and to win the game probably was a significant confidence builder that we could win games like that against good teams, and I think it did change the culture of the program in a positive way, which I think it was just another one of those steps that you take when you're trying to build a program to national prominence that you have to take, and our players did a really good job of it, and they had a really, really good team, and it was a really good game.
Okay, Coach, we'll next go to Cassidy Hill. Go ahead, Cassidy.
Hey, Coach. Cassidy Hill, Gatorbait Magazine. Actually, building off that, after that 2008 SEC championship game, you went to face Utah in the Sugar Bowl, fell to Utah and Brian Johnson. Johnson, obviously the offensive coordinator now at Florida. What do you remember about him in that game? And how much was it a learning curve in defending tempo?
Well, I think that their style of play was a little different than what we anticipated. They were in empty almost the whole game. We had a lot of big guys at that time, didn't have a lot of good pass rushers, probably didn't have a very good plan to play in the game. And I think one of the most difficult things that you have to do, or that I've ever had to do, is when you lose the SEC championship game, get your team ready to play the next game. That's always been really, really difficult. So they had a great scheme. They did a great job of executing against us, and we didn't play great. And they had a really good team, and they deserved to beat us and win, and they certainly did.
Coach, next we'll go to Steve Moulton of WZZN. Go ahead, Steve.
Hey, Coach. Steve Moulton, WZZN. I was hoping you could speak to your defensive improvements this season, specifically your front seven, and how they've affected the pocket here in the latter portions of the season. Where do you think they've improved the most, Coach?
Well, I think we've improved as an overall unit. I think early in the year we had 4 out of 5 new starters in the secondary, a lot of inexperience, made some mistakes. Had some new guys playing up front. I think it took a while for the group to develop confidence that they could play well, they could play together as a unit, get the concept of if everybody does their job, we have a chance to be successful. And I just think that the confidence got better with the young players, the confidence got better with the inexperienced players. And I think that, we just made some steady improvement, but we're going to get challenged in this game Saturday in a different way than, we've been challenged for a long time because of the quarterback, the scheme that they run, the mismatched players that they have. So this will be probably the ultimate challenge for this defensive group this week.
Again, if you have a question, use the raise the hand function. We'll now go to Ron Wallace. Ron?
How you doing, Coach Saban? Ron Wallace with Ballin' Down South. I just want to ask you, what is your secret, year in, year out? Those guys come out to play for you. How are you able to get those guys to just go out there and do what they're supposed to do each and every weekend, and definitely now coming into another SEC championship game? How do you do it?
Well, first of all, we get good players, and I think, we've tried to create a culture here where everybody has to buy into the principles and values of the team and the organization, respect those principles and values and respect each other, and have confidence that those things are going to help them be successful individually in terms of how they create value for themselves, and also collectively how effective and consistent our team can execute. This year's team has done a really good job of that. We haven't had a lot of issues and problems on our team all year long, and it's been a very disruptive year from, the whole COVID standpoint and what we've all had to go through to improvise and adapt to what we had to do to play football this fall. But our players have done a good job of handling that, shown a lot of maturity. So the intangibles that we instill, with that culture, whether it's discipline, mental and physical toughness, people understanding how important it is for them to be responsible for their own self-determination in terms of doing their job and doing what they need to do, and the work that it takes to be able to create these kind of opportunities for yourself. And I think it's all part of the culture that we try to create, and I think when people come here, that's the expectation that they have, and that's what they buy into.
We'll now go to Tony Soklas. Tony, go ahead.
Coach, you kind of talked about it with the front seven, but what have you seen from Will Anderson, and how has he kind of taken his game to the next level over the last 3 games?
Well, Will's played well for us all year long. He's one of the young players that I was talking about that obviously got a lot better through the game experience, knowledge and experience that he gained throughout the season, and he has played extremely well. I think, again, he's more comfortable and confident in what he's supposed to do, and has the confidence that he can do it well in the game. So he has been a really good player for us, but I think he's played well all year long.
Coach, we'll now go to AP Stebbin. AP?
Yes, good afternoon, Coach. This is AP Stidham, WHEP AM and FM, Foley, Alabama. Coach, what's the difference with Will Riker this year? He's been very successful, and I know you have criteria for all the positions. What's the criteria when you're evaluating a kicker?
Well, the difference for Will Reichert this year is he was very good last year. People don't remember that after 4 or 5 games he was injured and never was able to come back from that injury, but he was very successful for us prior to that injury. So we were excited to get him back, and he certainly had a phenomenal year this year in terms of his consistency and accuracy and field goal kicking, and that's been a real positive for our team.
Coach, we'll go to Mike Rodak of Alabama Media Group. Mike?
Yeah, Nick, where have you seen Christian Harris improve the most since last season? And if he's able to play on Saturday, what does he bring to the defense? What sort of qualities?
Well, I think last year playing as a freshman was probably difficult in terms of he was playing with another freshman, so there wasn't even anybody for him to sort of lean on to make calls, and there wasn't a lot of confidence probably in either guy, so they played with a lot of apprehension at times in terms of not having a total feel and understanding for what was required of them. And I think, again, through that same knowledge and experience that he's gained and playing with Dylan this year, who has knowledge and experience, can make all the calls, plays with a lot more confidence, and but he's very athletic. He can run. I think once players get rid of the anxiety of worrying about what I'm supposed to do and really know what they're supposed to do, then they can go play fast and make plays, and he's certainly done a good job of that for us all year long.
Coach, we'll go back to Steve Moulton of WZZN. Go ahead, Steve.
Coach, I was wondering, a kid from up here in North Alabama, LeBrian Ray, is there an update on him, and how is he progressing, Coach?
Right. Well, he's struggled a little bit with this elbow injury. It's been kind of on again, off again, and he's probably questionable for the game.
All right, Coach, we'll go to David Pascal. Go ahead, David.
Wanted to ask, just I know you were asked earlier about coaching and your career and how much further, but I was curious about this year alone. I mean, given that you had the week with the false positive and then you did test positive, has this personally been a more trying year for you compared to other years just because of what we've all had to encounter?
Well, I think it's been that way for everybody in the world. So, I mean, I told our players early on this season and told all the coaches and everyone that there was going to be a lot of disruptions in this season. Things were not going to be normal. They were probably going to be more abnormal than normal. And the team that could handle those disruptions the best would have the best chance to be successful long term. So I think our whole organization was kind of geared up for it. So we've had a lot of those things happen, and it hasn't affected us. So now we have an opportunity to try to finish the season the right way, which is another sort of obstacle that I don't care if you're running track in high school or junior high, the coach is always saying run through the finish line, and that's the challenge that we have right now. So, but yeah, it was different. It was different. It's the first time in a long time that I couldn't go to practice. First time in a long time I had to sit and do everything, Zoom meetings and team meetings and players on the field. So it was very different, but we all adapted and adjusted, and everybody stayed focused on what they needed to do to be able to contribute in a positive way, and made it work.
Coach, we'll go next to Gene Fournette. Go ahead, Gene.
Yes, Coach, Gene Fournette from the Times-Union in Jacksonville again. How would you do you feel like, given the way the CFP rankings are at right now, that the SEC would be deserving of having 2 teams in the college football playoff, regardless of how Saturday night's outcome shakes out?
Man, I don't really like to speculate on things like that. The thing that we want to try to do is play our best so that we can determine our fate and our future by how we perform on the field and probably not have to leave it up to other people who have a very, very difficult task, especially in a year like this where everybody didn't play the same number of games and didn't play out of conference games in most cases. So it's a very difficult task. So we understand that, but we also respect the people that have to make it. And, you know, we're just hopeful that we play well enough to get an opportunity to play in the playoffs.
Coach will now go to Antonio McBeath. Go ahead, Antonio.
Hey, Coach, this is Antonio McBeath from WUMP here in Huntsville. How difficult was the challenge of preparing for an SEC championship game and wrapping up the early signing period in the same week?
Well, I think there are lots of challenges when it comes to recruiting. But fortunately or unfortunately, most of the players that we had the good fortune to sign Wednesday had already committed in the past, and they were very solid in their commitments, so we didn't have any sort of last-minute issues to deal with. I think our coaches did a really, really good job of developing relationships in a different way this season. I had to do the same thing through, Zooms and basically doing home visits on Zoom rather than being able to go see people. And so it was a different kind of recruiting. But it's always challenging in game week when you have a signing date. It's just, you're trying to focus on the game, but you're worried about what's going to happen with certain players. And take some of your time, take some of your focus. But I thought we did a pretty good job this week, and we were pleased with the results that we got in recruiting. And I don't think it's in any way hampered, what we're doing to try to get ready for this game.
We'll go back to Steve Moulton. Steve?
Coach, from hearing you after the Iron Bowl and missing the Iron Bowl, is it fair to say maybe that kind of reinvigorated you a little bit? At least it sounded that way since the Iron Bowl, Coach.
Well, I didn't know that I was not vigorated. So I guess you have to not be vigorated to get revigorated. So I was vigorated before. I was disappointed, and I was happy to get back. So I don't know what the speculation there really is about. So I hope I've been vigorated all year. I owe that to the players. That's my job.
Coach, we'll go to Ron Wallace. Go ahead, Ron.
Coach Ron Wallace with Balling Down South again. First of all, congratulations, get the SEC championship. Also, good luck this weekend. But so what have you told your players not to get complacent just because you've been there this many times and, everybody's behind us? And what do you instill in those players to make sure they keep an even keel and not get displaced?
Well, first of all, I think you have to respect who you're playing, and Florida has a really, really good team who's probably capable of beating any team, in the country. So we're going to have to play very well and focus on what we have to do really well in this game to have a chance to be successful, number one. But number two, I think the opportunity to play for the SEC championship is something that players should be very motivated, to try to do. The thing that I talk to the players about is, there's not very many teams that go undefeated in college football. There's only a few, each year. And do you have to have a loss to, since we're using the word reinvigorate yourself, do you have to have a loss to be able to do that as a player, or can you stay focused? Can you keep the intensity? Can you continue to create the right habits in practice, in preparation, so that you have an opportunity to go out and play well, regardless of the grind of the season, regardless of how many games you won? So you got to focus on what's in front of you, because at this point in the season, it's like the playoffs. It's like a new season. What you did during the season really doesn't have any influence on the outcome of what you do moving forward. And you have to have the maturity to understand that and stay focused on what you need to do to continue to play well, and think that the people that you're going to play against at this time of the season are going to be the best players you played against all year long.
Coach Saban, thank you for your time today. Best of luck to you and your team on Saturday.
Thank you. Appreciate you.